You need to leave. Now. What? Why? You don't belong here. I'll call security. This is messed up!
Security, we have a situation. The call crackled through the walkie-talkie at Elite Motors, the most exclusive luxury car dealership in the city, where vehicles started at $150,000 and salespeople earned six figures on commission alone. Standing in the middle of the pristine showroom, surrounded by Ferraris and Lamborghinis, was a black man in his mid-30s. He wore faded jeans, a simple gray t-shirt, and scuff-work boots. His hands showed calluses. His clothes had paint stains. He looked like someone who'd just finished construction shift. Store manager Derek Thompson watched from his glass office, his lip curling with disgust. 10 years managing Elite Motors had taught him to spot real buyers from tire kickers. And this man, this obviously broke individual wandering around touching cars he could never afford, was definitely a tire kicker. So, Derek's voice was sharp as he approached. "Can I help you with something?" The man toned, a slight smile on his face. "Yes, actually, I'm looking to purchase." "Let me stop you right there." Derek held up his hand. "I can see you're interested in luxury vehicles. That's great. But Elite Motors caters to a very specific clientele. Our cars require significant financial resources. Perhaps I can direct you to a more suitable dealership." The man's smile faded. "I have the financial resources. I'd like to see." "So," Derek's voice hardened, "I've been in this business for 10 years. I can tell when someone is wasting my time. These vehicles," he gestured around the showroom, "start at $150,000. The Ferrari you were just touching? $340,000. I don't think that's in your budget." "You don't know what my budget is," the man said quietly. "I can make an educated guess based on your appearance." Derek's eyes swept over the paint-stained clothes with undisguised contempt. "Now, I'm going to ask you politely one more time to leave before I have security escort you out. We have real clients coming in, and I can't have you making them uncomfortable." What Derek Thompson didn't know, what his prejudice and arrogance had blinded him to, was that the man he was dismissing had $4.2 million in liquid assets, that he owned 3 successful construction companies, that he'd come to Elite Motors specifically to buy 6 luxury vehicles for his executive team, and that in approximately 12 minutes, Derek was going to realize he'd just cost himself the biggest commission of his career, and possibly his job. Let me take you back 3 hours, to when Marcus Coleman's day started very differently than it would end. Marcus woke up in his penthouse apartment overlooking the city, made coffee, reviewed contract for his latest development project, a $50 million commercial complex breaking ground next month. He was a self-made millionaire. Started with nothing. Grew up in public housing, worked construction jobs through high school and college, saved every penny, started his own company at 25. 10 years later, he employed 200 people and pulled down 8 figures annually. But Marcus had never forgotten where he came from. Never forgot what it felt like to be underestimated, dismissed, told he'd never amount to anything. So he lived modestly, drove a 10-year-old truck, wore regular clothes, didn't flash his wealth. Today was different, though. His company had just landed the biggest contract in its history, and Marcus had decided to celebrate by doing something he'd been planning for months, buying luxury vehicles for his 6 senior executives as bonuses. He'd researched dealerships. Elite Motors had the best reputation. He'd planned to spend roughly $1.5 million, but he'd been at a job site all morning, hadn't had time to go home and change. So he'd driven straight to the dealership in his work clothes, paint stains and all. He'd expected questions, expected to need to prove his financial capability. He hadn't expected to be told to leave before he could even speak. "So, I'm not going to ask again." Derek Thompson stood with his arms crossed, radiating impatience. "You need to leave. Now." Marcus took a slow breath. "I understand how I look. I came straight from a construction site, but I'm here to make a serious purchase. If you'd just let me explain." "I don't need explanations. I need you to leave before you damage something you can't afford to replace." Derek gestured toward the door. "There's a Honda dealership 3 miles down the road. That might be more your speed." A young salesman, couldn't have been more than 25, name tag reading Kevin Martinez, approached hesitantly. Mr. Thompson, maybe we should at least hear what he... Kevin, this doesn't concern you. Derek's voice was sharp. Get back to your desk. But so, company policy says we're supposed to treat every customer. Every customer. This man is not a customer. He's someone who wandered in off the street to waste our time. Derek turned back to Marcus. Final warning. Leave voluntarily, or security removes you. Your choice. Marcus felt the familiar burn of humiliation. The same feeling he'd experienced countless times growing up. Being followed in stores. Being stopped by police. Being treated as a threat or a problem simply because of his skin color and his appearance. Usually, he walked away, took his business elsewhere, refused to give money to people who didn't respect him. But something about Derek Thompson's smug certainty, his absolute conviction that he knew Marcus's worth at a glance, made Marcus want to teach him a lesson. I'll leave, Marcus said quietly. But before I do, I want you to know something. I came here to buy 6 vehicles. High-end luxury cars for my executive team. I was prepared to spend approximately $1.5 million today. Cash. Derek laughed. Sure you were. And I'm the King of England. I'm Marcus Coleman, owner of Coleman Construction Group. We just landed a $50 million development contract. You can verify that with a simple Google search. Anyone can claim to own a business. Anyone can throw around impressive numbers. Derek pulled out his phone mockingly. But fine, let's play your game. He typed Marcus Coleman Construction into Google. His expression was smug, ready to catch Marcus in a lie. Then his face changed. The search results loaded. Marcus Coleman's company website. News articles about the $50 million contract. Forbes profile from last year. Self-made millionaire builds empire from ground up. Photos of Marcus in a suit at various business events. Derek's smugness evaporated. His face went pale. That's actually you, he said, his voice strangled. It's actually me, Marcus confirmed. And you just told me to leave because you judge my worth by my work clothes and my skin color. Derek's mouth opened and closed. I didn't mean. I was just following security protocols. Security protocols that involve telling potential customers they can't afford your cars before they've even stated their interest. Marcus's voice was calm but cutting. Security protocols that involve directing them to Honda dealerships. Security protocols that involve refusing to let them speak. Mr. Coleman, I apologize. I made a mistake. If you'd just give me a chance. A chance to do what? Take my money now that you know I have it. Marcus shook his head. You had your chance. You chose to insult me, dismiss me, and threaten me with security. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. Kevin, the young salesman, stepped forward. Mr. Coleman, I'm so sorry for how you were treated. Mr. Thompson doesn't speak for all of us. If you give me the opportunity, I'd be honored to help you find the vehicles you're looking for. Marcus looked at Kevin. So genuine remorse in his face, genuine desire to make things right. What's your commission rate here? Marcus asked. Kevin blinked, confused by the question. 3% on vehicles under $200,000. 5% on anything above. Marcus pulled out his phone, showed Kevin a list he'd prepared. 6 luxury vehicles. Specific makes, models, and features. If you can get me these 6 cars with these exact specifications, I'll buy all of them today. That's roughly $1.5 million in sales. Your commission would be about $70,000. Kevin's eyes widened. Sir, that would be, are you serious? Completely serious. But there's one condition. Marcus looked at Derek. He doesn't get a penny of the commission, and I want to speak with the owner of this dealership, because customers deserve better than managers who judge their worth by appearance. Derek's face had gone from pale to gray. Mr. Coleman, please. I made a mistake. I'll personally handle your purchase. I'll give you the best service. You already gave me your best service, Marcus said. You showed me exactly who you are when you thought I couldn't hurt you. Now you get to live with the consequences. 20 minutes later, Marcus sat in the dealership owner's office. Robert Chen was a Chinese-American man in his 60s who'd built Elite Motors from nothing. He sat across from Marcus, his face grave as he listened to what had happened. "Mr. Coleman, I am profoundly sorry. What Derek did is inexcusable. It violates every value this dealership stands for." "Does it?" Marcus asked. "Or does it reveal what this dealership actually values? High-end car for high-end people. And your manager gets to decide who qualifies as high-end based on appearance." "That's not what we stand for," Robert insisted. "I built this business on respect for all customers, on treating everyone with dignity regardless of how they look or where they come from." "Then how did Derek Thompson become your manager? How did he work here for 10 years without anyone noticing his bias?" Robert was quiet for a moment. "Because I wasn't paying attention. Because I focused on sales numbers and ignored how those sales were made. Because I assumed everyone shared my values without verifying." He pulled out a file. Derek Thompson's employment record. Stellar sales numbers. Multiple Manager of the Month awards. Glowing customer reviews from the customers he deemed worthy of service. "On paper, he's an excellent manager," Robert said. "But clearly, I wasn't asking the right questions. Wasn't looking at who he was turning away. Wasn't examining whether his success came at the cost of discriminating against people he didn't think could afford our cars." "What are you going to do about it?" Marcus asked. "Fire him. Immediately. What he did is ground for termination. And frankly, I can't have someone representing my business who treats potential customers with such contempt." "That's a start," Marcus said. "But it's not enough. Because Derek Thompson is a symptom of a bigger problem. How many other potential customers has he turned away? How many other black professionals, Latino business owners, Asian entrepreneurs has he dismissed because they didn't look like his idea of wealth?" Robert nodded slowly. "You're right. And I need to do better. Better training. Better oversight. Better accountability." "I'll tell you what," Marcus said. "I'm still planning to buy those 6 vehicles. Young Kevin is going to handle the sale and is going to earn a $70,000 commission. But I have a condition." "Name it." "You implement mandatory anti-bias training for all staff. You create an anonymous complaint system for customers who feel they've been discriminated against. You track demographic data on who's buying cars and who's being turned away. And you commit to transparency, publishing annual reports on your efforts." Robert extended his hand. "You have my word. And Mr. Coleman, thank you for giving us a chance to do better instead of just taking your business elsewhere." "I'm not doing it for you," Marcus said, shaking his hand. "I'm doing it for the next person who walks in here looking poor, but having real money. They deserve better than what I got." Derek Thompson sat in his car in the dealership parking lot, his hands shaking. He'd just been fired. 10 years of employment ended in a 15-minute conversation with Robert Chen. No severance. No recommendation. Just a box of personal belongings and an instruction never to return. His phone buzzed. A text from his wife. "How did the day go? Did you close any big sales?" Derek stared at the message. How did he explain this? How did he tell his wife that he'd lost his 6-figure job because he judged a millionaire by his work clothes? He typed and deleted several responses. Finally settled on, "Bad day. Lost my job. I'll explain when I get home." Another text came immediately. "What? How? What happened?" Derek couldn't answer. Couldn't put into words the magnitude of his mistake. He thought about Marcus Coleman. About the way he'd looked at Derek. Not with anger, but with disappointment. Like Derek was exactly what he'd expected to encounter. Another person who saw black skin and wet clothes and assumed poverty. Another obstacle in a lifetime of obstacles. Derek had spent 10 years at Elite Motors convincing himself he was good at his job, that his instincts about customers were sharp, that he could tell at a glance who was worth his time. But really, he'd just been filtering out anyone who didn't match his narrow definition of wealth. Anyone who didn't look right. Anyone whose appearance triggered his unconscious biases. How many sales had he lost? How many customers had he turned away? How many people like Marcus Coleman had walked out and taken their money elsewhere? Derek would never know, but he knew it was more than 0, probably more than he could count. Inside the dealership, Marcus was signing paperwork for 6 luxury vehicles. A Ferrari 488 Spider, a Lamborghini Huracan, 2 Mercedes G-Wagons, a Porsche 911 Turbo, and a Bentley Continental GT. Total, $1,547,000. Kevin Martinez processed the sale with shaking hands, unable to believe his fortune. One sale, one customer Derek had dismissed, and Kevin's commission would be $71,350. Mr. Coleman, Kevin said as they finished the paperwork, I want you to know how much this means. Not just a commission, though that's life-changing, but the chance to serve you after how you were treated. You earned it, Marcus said. You were willing to stand up to your manager. That takes courage. I should have done more. Should have called Mr. Chen immediately. Should have. You did what you could, Marcus interrupted. Sometimes that's all we can do. Speak up when we see wrong, even if it costs us something. Kevin nodded. Can I ask you something? Why did you stay? After how Mr. Thompson treated you, why didn't you just leave and take your business somewhere else? Marcus considered the question, because leaving would have taught him nothing. He would have convinced himself I wasn't a real customer anyway, that his instincts were right. But staying, making the purchase, showing him exactly how much money he'd cost himself, that's a lesson he'll never forget. Do you think he'll change? Learn from this. I don't know, Marcus admitted. Some people do. Some people hit rock bottom and examine their biases and become better. Others just get bitter, blame everyone except themselves, decide they're the victims. He looked at Kevin directly. But I know you'll do better. You'll remember this. And the next time you see someone who doesn't look like they belong, someone in work clothes or casual dress or anything that doesn't scream wealth, you'll remember that appearances mean nothing, that wealth comes in all colors and all clothing styles, and that treating people with dignity isn't just morally right, it's good business. That evening, Marcus drove home in his old truck, the same vehicle he'd arrived at Elite Motors in. His new luxury cars will be delivered next week. His phone rang. His wife, Angela. Hey, baby, how'd the car shopping go? Interesting, Marcus said. Got exactly what I wanted, but not before the manager tried to throw me out for looking too poor to afford anything. Angela sighed. Again? Marcus, why do you still dress down when you go places? You have the money to look the part. Why make it harder on yourself? Because I shouldn't have to look the part to be treated with respect, Marcus said. Because changing how I dress doesn't change what people see when they look at me. Because wealthy black men in work clothes deserve the same service as wealthy white men in work clothes. I know. I just hate that you have to deal with this. Me too. But today, at least, there were consequences. The manager lost his job. A young salesman earned a massive commission, and the dealership owner committed to actually addressing bias in his business. So something good came from it. Maybe, Marcus said, time will tell if the changes stick or if they're just performative, but at least it's a start. Derek Thompson sat across from a career counselor, trying to figure out what came next. So you were terminated from Elite Motors after 10 years. Can you explain why? Derek hesitated. He could lie, could say budget cuts or personality conflicts or anything except the truth. But what was the point? The truth would come out eventually. Elite Motors would never give him a positive reference. And the story had made local news. Manager fired after discriminating against Millionaire customer. I misjudged a customer, Derek said finally, based on his appearance. Told him to leave. Turns out he was a millionaire trying to buy $1.5 million in cars. I cost the dealership a massive sale and got fired. The counselor made notes. Have you learned from the experience? Derek wanted to say yes. Wanted to claim he'd grown and changed and wouldn't make the same mistake again. But honestly, he was mostly just bitter. Bitter that one mistake had cost him everything. Bitter that Marcus Coleman couldn't have just been understanding instead of vindictive. Bitter that his career was over because of political correctness and oversensitivity. I learned that appearances can be deceiving, Derek said carefully, giving the answer he knew was expected without truly believing it. The counselor didn't look convinced. I'll be honest with you, Derek. Your former employer's refusal to provide a reference, combined with the public nature of your termination, makes this challenging. Most high-end retailers won't touch you. You may need to look at different industries entirely. Different industries. Lower pay. Starting over. All because of one millionaire who couldn't take a joke, who couldn't understand that Derek was just doing his job, just trying to maintain Elite Motors' exclusive atmosphere. Or at least, that's a story Derek told himself. The story that let him sleep at night without examining the ugly truth, that he'd spent 10 years judging people by appearance, dismissing customers who didn't match his expectations, and building success on discrimination he convinced himself was just good instincts. Marcus Coleman hadn't destroyed Derek's career. Derek had destroyed it himself. One prejudice assumption at a time. One dismissed customer at a time. One judge by appearance interaction at a time. Marcus had just been the one who finally made Derek face the consequences. Meanwhile, Marcus Coleman stood in front of his 6 executives, presenting them with their bonus vehicles. Each of you has worked incredibly hard, he told them. Each of you has gone above and beyond. And each of you deserves to be recognized, not just with money or titles, but with something that says, I see your value. I appreciate your contribution. You matter. His executives, diverse in race, gender, and background, stood in stunned silence, staring at 6 luxury vehicles worth a combined $1.5 million. One more thing, Marcus said, I want to tell you about the day I bought these cars. He told them the story, the dismissal, the judgment, the manager who'd looked at work clothes and dark skin and decided Marcus didn't belong. I share this not to make you angry or bitter, Marcus continued, but to remind you that the world will constantly try to tell you what you're worth based on how you look, based on your skin color, your clothes, your background. And I want you to remember, they're wrong. Your worth isn't determined by other people's biases. Your value isn't measured by their limited imaginations. You define your own worth. You prove your own value. And anyone who can't see that, that's their limitation, not yours. His executives stood a little taller, smiled a little wider, believed a little more deeply, because their boss hadn't just given them expensive cars. He'd given them something far more valuable, the reminder that they deserved to be seen, valued, and celebrated regardless of who tried to diminish them. The manager had judged a black man by his looks, and he'd regretted it. But more importantly, he'd learned nothing, because Derek Thompson was still the same person, just bitter about getting caught. But Marcus Coleman, he was still the same too, still brilliant, still successful, still proving every single day that prejudice is everything about the person judging and nothing about the person being judged. And that lesson, that truth, was worth far more than $1.5 million in luxury cars. Moral lesson: never judge someone's worth by their appearance. The person in work clothes might be a millionaire. The person who doesn't look the part might be exactly the customer you need most. Prejudice doesn't just reveal your character, it costs you opportunities, relationships, and success. When you dismiss people based on appearance, you don't hurt them as much as you hurt yourself. Because while they'll take their money, their talent, and their potential elsewhere, you'll be left with nothing but the consequences of your own narrow thinking. Respect costs nothing. But disrespect, it can cost you everything.